Apple just lost $1 trillion, and their products feel stale. And their AI gamble? A disaster. That's the story you've probably heard. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Apple's slide isn't just about one bad quarter or a few cranky reviewers. It's about a decade-long shift from building wow products to pumping the stock. Under Steve Jobs, the rule was simple. Make something great and the money will follow. Under Tim Cook, the rule changed. Make the money and the products will keep up. For a long time, that worked until the market decided innovation, not buybacks, was the real currency again. Let's start with the scoreboard. As of mid-August 2025, Apple sits around the $3.4 trillion mark, third place, behind Microsoft and Nvidia. Nvidia even blasted past $4 trillion in July, while Microsoft flirted in that neighborhood too. Apple still isn't a sad story at $3+ trillion, but it used to be the automatic number one. Now it's chasing the AI leaders instead of setting the pace. At this year's lows, Apple's value was more than $700 to $900 billion off the late 2024 almost $4 trillion hype. Close enough that the lost $1 trillion headline lands emotionally even if the exact math swings day to day. What matters is the direction. Nvidia and Microsoft surged, Apple lagged. Investors are voting with their wallets about who's building the future. So what changed? The company that made iMacs, iPods, iPhones, and iPads like clockwork pivoted to a different engine: financial engineering. Since 2012, Apple has run the biggest cash return machine in corporate history, with year after year of jumbo buybacks and rising dividends. In May 2024, it authorized a record $110 billion repurchase. In fiscal 2024 alone, Apple repurchased about $95 billion of stock and kept buying in 2025. That made shareholders very rich. It also told the market a quiet story. Apple bets the best use of its cash is buying Apple. Meanwhile, rivals were plowing staggering sums into AI chips, data centers, and research. Apple's R&D is big in absolute terms, about $31 billion in 2024. But Alphabet spent roughly $49 billion, and Amazon's R&D bucket, as counted by financial trackers, powered toward $90 billion in 2024 and near $96 billion on a trailing basis into mid-2025. Ask yourself which strategy better explains the leaderboard in 2025. And customers noticed. When was the last time an iPhone really surprised you? For years, the base iPhone hovered around $649 unlocked, while each generation felt clearly better. Today, the flagship Pro Max starts at $1,199 and the hardware is refined, yes, but often incremental. New button here, lighter metal there, camera tweaks every time. Reviewers call recent models iterative, sometimes shipping marquee features later via software. That's not the thrill that made people line up at midnight. And it's not lost on buyers that to get the full new AI set, you need the latest chip or a premium tier. That's a price ladder, not a revolution. Siri is the perfect symbol of the drift. Apple unveiled Apple Intelligence in 2024 with splashy promises, but limited device support and slow feature rollouts left many users waiting and waiting. In March 2025, Apple conceded that some Siri upgrades had slipped to 2026. Analysts publicly called Apple's AI play a mess, and reports said the company even considered outside models to power the next Siri. Apple says it's coming, better voice control, deeper app actions. But in a year when rivals sprinted, Apple walked. That's the gap investors are punishing. Then there's Vision Pro. On paper, a $3,500 mixed reality computer is classic Apple. Ambitious, premium, the next thing. In practice, demand cooled fast. Multiple reports through late 2024 said Apple sharply cut production and trimmed shipment targets. A cheaper model was rumored. International expansion didn't rescue sales. None of that means Apple can't find the right formula later. But as a flagship launch, Vision Pro didn't become iPhone 2.0, it became a question mark. And in a market obsessed with AI, every missed beat is costly. If you're enjoying the video so far, don't forget to hit that like button. It helps other viewers find this and tells me to keep doing these straight talk breakdowns. Let's talk prices and priorities because this is where customers feel it. The iPhone 6 launched at $649 unlocked in 2014. Same for the 5S the year before. While innovation was obvious, bigger displays, Touch ID, LTE jumps, design revamps. Fast forward to the iPhone 15 Pro Max kicking off at $1,199, and the conversation shifts from new experience to new payment plan. Apple would argue you're getting titanium pro cameras, custom silicon, and years of iOS support. True, but the vibe is different. The company maximized revenue per customer while stretching the upgrade cycle. Again, financially brilliant. Culturally, it's not the Apple that used to blindside you with a product you didn't know you needed. Meanwhile, the legal and regulatory weather turned ugly. The US Department of Justice and a coalition of states sued Apple in 2024, accusing it of locking down the smartphone market. In Europe, the EU fined Apple €500 million over App Store behavior and pressed DMA compliance, forcing rule changes to avoid daily fines. Even Epic's long war kept Apple on the defensive in some countries. You don't have to pick a side to see the pattern. The more Apple leaned on services and ecosystem control to drive profits, the more governments and courts leaned back. That's time, money, and goodwill not spent on jaw-dropping new products. Back to AI, because this is the axis the market cares about. Apple did unveil a privacy-minded approach. On-device models plus secure cloud. That's smart differentiation. But it rolled out narrowly. First to the latest iPhones and M-series Macs with regional and language limits, and kept pushing some of the most exciting Siri upgrades further out. While Apple refined, Microsoft and Nvidia vacuumed up the upside from AI infrastructure. Google and Amazon threw jaw-dropping sums into models and data centers. Apple is spending more now, no doubt. The question is whether the company's cash flow machine built to feed buybacks and dividends can pivot fast enough to feed the AI beast. So far, the market's answer has been prove it. Here's the uncomfortable middle chapter. Tim Cook's formula, operational excellence, supply chain mastery, margin discipline, capital return, wasn't wrong. It turned Apple into a cash volcano and built a services empire with recurring revenue. But formulas age. The world shifted from who has the best phone to who builds the smartest systems. Apple still has world-class chips and devices. What it needs is a pace of visible, undeniable capability jumps that make people rethink what an iPhone or a Mac can do. Buybacks won't do that. Coming in 2026 won't either. Products will. So where does this go next? There are two Apple futures. In the first, Apple uses its war chest to go on offense. Ship AI that's useful and delightful now, not next year. Let Siri actually replace taps. Bundle services in ways that feel generous, not nickel and dimed, and build a few hits that aren't just pro-everything price ladders. In that world, the brand rediscovering surprise is worth more than $1 trillion back in market cap because it reclaims the narrative. In the second future, Apple keeps doing what it's doing, better cameras, stronger glass, bigger buybacks, while Microsoft and Nvidia eat the AI economy and Google and Amazon keep outrunning it in investment. Apple stays huge, but it stops being the gravitational center of tech. But this decision didn't just change Apple's finances, it changed Apple's soul. That's the line we have to sit with. The soul of Apple was shock and delight. The soul right now is spreadsheets and services. It doesn't have to be. The same company that built the M-series chips can absolutely build an assistant that feels like magic, an iPhone that does new things you can't live without, and a headset that actually makes sense in everyday life. It can afford to do it too. No one has more cash or better supply chain muscle. Here's my verdict, Apple's trillion-ish stumble isn't a random market squiggle. It's the bill for a decade of playing defense with buybacks while the next platform AI arrived early and loud. The fix is not another dividend hike or a bigger authorization. The fix is products that make the buybacks irrelevant because the growth story writes itself. Apple was built on innovation. If it keeps putting shareholders first, greed won't just backfire. It could break the company. Would you upgrade to an Apple phone because of an AI that actually saves you time every day? Or are you done paying more for the same rectangle? Tell me where you land. All the sources I used are linked below in the description. If you'd like to see a video on why BYD's electric bus EV sales are up 128% ties into today's story, I dropped the link right there in the description.